Hi, my name's Aaron Bucheister, and I produced and recorded Lee Chapman's song You Think You Know Me for his record Real Life. When I open the song starts with this boom, 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 dum, dum. It's a really cool bass sound, and immediately, to me, it reminded me of a song called, I think, Boogie Bossa Nova by Quincy Jones' big band record from the 60s or 70s that I wore out listening to as a late teenager, early 20s. So that immediately gave me this vibe, this idea of the sonic textures I'd be chasing on this song. I had Unified Jazz Band, who's a great jazz band from Annapolis, coming over to record on a different project, and after we were done that project, I had some of them play on this song. So John Pineda, who's one of my favorite upright bass players, played upright bass on this song, and then Frank Rousseau played drums on this song. And it was my first time working with Frank Rousseau, and he did a great job. And I'm really pleased with what he did. Super easy to work with. I think they really brought the energy and the intensity and the tension to this song that I was really hoping for. I also got a saxophone player to play on this song. I don't think Lee had written any saxophone for this song, but I really wanted to capture that Quincy Jones big band sound, so saxophone was kind of an obvious choice for me. So we created little sections with little, I call them like hits, where the saxophone goes da 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 da, just to build tension. And then we also created some lines where the saxophone's kind of more like soloing between vocal sections, and that was really fun. We had a lot of we took some inspiration from some of Lee's guitar parts that he had written, some of these cool diminished scale runs, and we kind of worked off of that as our inspiration for creating some of these parts. And we kind of made a saxophone section out of just one person through the use of modern recording technology. So that was pretty neat. And then I think there's two other instruments on this song that are interesting to me. There's a vibraphone and there's an electric guitar. So modern MIDI sounds, the vibraphone is for some reason an instrument that has been able to be reproduced by computer technology to a pretty high level, I would say. Granted, Unified Jazz Ensemble does have a vibraphone player and he's amazing, but he was not available for that day, so we already had the MIDI parts. So it was fine to keep that vibraphone to me. Usually I'm trying to replace these MIDI instruments that sound almost like the real instrument, but far away enough that it kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. And there's a guitar part. So in the world of robots, there's a concept called the uncanny valley, where it has to do with humans' comfort with robots. So if a robot looks like a big metal box with wires coming out of it, we're pretty comfortable with it. But as it becomes closer to looking like a human, but not exactly like a human, we become uncomfortable with it, and more until it looks exactly indistinguishable from a human. At that point, you can't even tell it's a robot. So this theory of the uncanny valley is that, if something is pretending to be an imitation of something else, it can make us feel uncomfortable. And that's what a lot of my friends and I think about MIDI instrumentation, is sometimes a MIDI instrument sounds nothing to us like the instrument, or it's approaching it, but it's so bad that it makes us feel really uncomfortable and we really don't like it. But sometimes it's so good it's almost indistinguishable for all intents and purposes, such as the vibraphone. So in this instance, the guitar sound, I'd imported it and it came as a MIDI guitar, which sounded awful. That's just the way it is. But then I put some plugins on it, some guitar amplifier, emulation plugins, and crunched it up a bit until it almost didn't even sound like a guitar or a MIDI guitar. So I think that was an interesting part of this song, is it's this crunchy element to it. And to me, it doesn't even sound like a guitar. It doesn't sound like anything. So it passes the sniff test to me. It doesn't sound like a MIDI instrument trying to be a real instrument. It just sounds like its own thing. So that's the reason I left that MIDI guitar as it was, because it didn't bother me, because at that point it just became its own thing.
Many musicians care passionately about sounds. They want to create beautiful, subtle, interesting sounds. When I was in computer music, a lot of my fellow composers just created beautiful sounds. They didn't seem to have any interest in combining them into actual pieces of music. I am very different. I care about notes and how they go together. I don't care if Bach is played on early instruments or modern instruments or synthesizers. To me, it's all Bach. My recordings used to be me playing guitar and singing, accompanied by a computer playing synthesized instruments. They sounded good to me, they sounded good to lots of people. But lots of musicians found them really horrible and begged me to start using real musicians playing real instruments. Obviously, Aaron is one of those. Last year I saw Manhattan Transfer perform. I was sitting right by the stage, underneath the bass player and 3 feet away from the percussionist. And I have to say, I was blown away by the subtlety and beauty of what those two guys were doing. That convinced me once and for all that human musicians have their place, although they can be a pain to work with. So I'm delighted that Aaron has found all these great musicians to work on my songs. Thank you, Aaron.
But all in all, I had a lot of fun working on that song. I think it turned out pretty differently than Lee had thought about it when he wrote the song, which is fun, and I'm very grateful that Lee has the emotional strength to let these songs go in a direction he didn't predict. And I got to work with some great musicians on this song, and that's always a pleasure. It makes my job easy, makes me sound like I know what I'm doing.